He's like, no, $37,000. And I was like, for a house, like a full house? He's like, yes. I was able to get this subject to appraisal loan. And the way that I like to explain it is like a reverse burr. I was able to accrue nearly 240,000 points and miles.
That's the reason for being more optimistic. You can start from scratch at new places.
Guess which industry is considered kind of risky? We can't do anything. Hang up, call again. That's literally a points and miles term.
I need to make this next paycheck to afford this lavish lifestyle.
One of the biggest mistakes people do when they have a player two, they put their spouse as an authorized user on a credit card.
It's easy to get that intro level card, but to establish business credit, it's hard to get larger amounts. Jaina, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. We are so excited to have you join us today and taking some of your time out of your busy schedule to join us. So thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's start here. Just a little bit of background on you. You are an active real estate investor. You invest as a limited partner in some deals. You're also still managing a W-2. You do a little bit of travel hacking. So you're doing a lot of different things, balancing the juggling act, if you will. So maybe take us through your journey, like how you got into real estate investing, then how this whole thing ties together.
Sure. So basically what happened was obviously COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people's lives. And I felt at that time, there was more of an urgency for me to learn, financial literacy. I was kind of comfortable in my W-2. I had a 401k. That's all I really knew. But once I saw the stock market drop, I felt like, oh my God, I need to do something. I need to figure something out. And so that was the catalyst for me figuring out, what can I do to earn more money outside of my W-2? Dabbled with stocks, even with crypto. I was mining Ethereum at one point, like with a full-on rig. Then I landed into real estate because one of my friends at church was like, Jaina, I just bought a house. And I was like, what do you mean? Because we live in Orange County, California. How can you afford a house? You're like 30. And he said, no. I bought it in Evansville, Indiana. Guess how much? And with my SoCal brain, I'm like, I don't know. $250K. He's like, no, $37,000. And I was like, for a house, like a full house? He's like, yes. And so from that point, I just learned how you can invest out of state without even stepping foot on your property. And that's basically how my real estate journey happened. I just copied and pasted what my friend was doing. And then from that same friend, he was like, I want to have a real estate business because he also had a W-2. We were both kind of in the same grind, aligned with similar values in business. And that we're like, let's do an Airbnb arbitrage business. But we're like, we didn't really want to use our own capital. So we're like, let's figure out how we could leverage OPM. We found this program. It's called Freedom Travel Systems. It's with like a bunch of points and miles people and business funding people that teach business owners how to leverage 0% APR business credit cards to travel hack. And from that point, I was like, oh my God, I could do this with real estate and renovations. And then the rest is history.
So Jaina, it's been a long time. We had somebody on our podcast maybe a couple years ago talking about just like personal travel hacking, and it's sparked our interest. And Ryan and I have some personal credit cards. We have some business credit cards. We've got a business line of credit. Like we're starting to really build our credit, not only personally, but in the business world. I'm curious about how this all ties together with the travel hacking. Like explain for people that don't know travel hacking, like explain what it is, how it works,
Absolutely.
Because you helped one of our friends, shout out to Jesse. Sounds like you helped him get like basically a free first class flight to Spain. Don't quote me, maybe that's not exactly right. But when I heard that, I was like, okay, how does this actually work? And if you could break it down, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So in the simplest terms, there are certain credit cards that earn points and miles. And points and miles are, essentially this currency that you could use to book flights or hotels, right? Through hotel or airline loyalty programs. So certain credit cards and certain programs that help you earn points and miles include like American Express. This is the business platinum everyone likes. Or Chase. This is the business Inc. Unlimited. There's even Capital One, Citi, Wells Fargo now, Built, right? There's a lot of these banks that allow you to earn with your expenses points. So you accrue them naturally based on what you spend. Right? Your money on. So what happens is once you put your credit card again through different expenses, whether it's your personal ones like dining or, gas, you're accruing these points. What happens is when you have enough points, you can essentially trade them in for a flight or a hotel stay. So that is the most simple way I could explain it. And so as you can imagine, as a real estate investor, you're like, some of people are like, well, I don't really use my credit card for my GC. I was like, well, do you buy materials? And they're like, I do. I do go to Home Depot a lot. I do buy all of that. I was like, imagine you have the money, but instead of just paying with your debit, pay with a credit card and just pay it back. Then you're accruing all these points and miles that could take you to your properties if if you invest out of state. So a lot of opportunity.
So we know people, Jaina, that we learned this a little while ago. We know people that are spending a lot of money on advertising dollars. For example, they might spend 20 to 30, 40, 50K a month on advertising spend. And they used, I forget the card, Capital One, maybe Business Venture, where because of this, they were getting thousands of dollars a month that not only they were able to use to travel, but they were just able to use for whatever, like thousands of dollars a month. So obviously the more you spend, the more you get. That makes total sense. But can you give us like a real life example of how you've used this in your everyday of like, okay, I use this card, I got X amount of points and it helped me get this. I just think it's cool to frame it for people who might be like, all right, how can I apply this to my life?
Absolutely. So I can use a really easy example. So one of my third rental property in Evansville, Indiana, where I have my long-term rentals, I was able to get this subject to appraisal loan. And the way that I like to explain it is like a reverse BRRRR. So instead of, buying the property, renovating it, and then refinancing it later to pull out your money, what I do instead, and this bank allows me to do this, where you get a dilapidated property and you show like the changes that you're going to make. And based on the renovations that you're able to do, you upfront get an appraised value. So if the bank says that's all right, the appraised value looks good, it's like a 75% ARV, they give me the renovation cost upfront with the loan. They wrap it in, right? So what happens is I don't have to come in with any money down. I just have to pay the mortgage during the renovation, which is maybe a month or two. They give me a check and they're like, hey, here's a check. You said you needed $26,000 for renovation. Go pay your general contractors. And then Corey, I was like, wait, so you're just going to give me a check? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, wait, I'm going to do something with this check, right? I'm going to do something. So what I did was at the time I found elevated sign-up offers from credit cards. So one of them was the Amex Business Gold, which by the way is really good for ad spend. You get 4x per dollar on ad spend up to 150K a year. So obviously for those big spenders that have 50K, a month, they'd want to go to the Capital One Venture X Business to get 2 points per dollar after the fact. But this one had an elevated sign-up bonus of like 110,000 points. And then I also got the Business Inc. Unlimited, which at the time had an elevated sign-up bonus of 90,000 points. And then after that, I put the rest on this Blue Business Plus. This is really good for beginning real estate investors who want higher credit limits, want to get 0% APR, and you get 2 points per dollar on this card up to 50K per year. So after opening up these cards, and I know for some people it might seem like a lot of cards, one thing to note, again, we could get really into the weeds of this if we really wanted, is once you have a personal credit card with American Express, let's say you have the personal platinum or whatever that is, any subsequent card you get afterwards, whether it's business or personal, is only a soft pull on your credit. So you won't get dinged on your credit score. So that's why a lot of people like stacking American Express, because it's not affecting their credit score, especially if they're trying to get into properties and go into escrow, right? So after the renovation with $26,000 only, I'm sure there's people listening here that's like, oh, that's not that much. I was able to accrue nearly 240,000 points and miles. And from that 240,000 points and miles, I was able to get a round trip flight on Emirates business class from JFK to Milan round trip. And that round trip is about $6,000. And I got 3 nights at the Grand Hotel Victoria in Lake Como, which is a 5-star luxury hotel. And that stay was nearly $3,000. So just from renovating the property with a crazy, subject to appraisal loan, not only did I get an asset that builds wealth, that gives me cash flow, but now because I knew which cards to use, I got a free luxury vacation for being a real estate investor. So that's what's possible. And people just don't know. They just don't know.
It's pretty cool. Well, I actually I didn't know that was really possible too. I mean, like I've had a bunch of flights paid for, I know how I have the Chase Sapphire Preferred. We have the Chase Blue Inc. I believe it's called. That I might be butchering the names, but and I've gotten a bunch of free flights. It's been great, but I didn't realize that you were able to get these elevated levels, which completely can change the game. I want to get back a little bit to your like real estate portfolio, and then we'll tie back in some of the travel hacking as well to it. But like,
Absolutely.
talk to us about you building this portfolio out of state. Like, what was that like for you? And how did you, was this really just a friend that came to you and you're like, hey, I trust this guy or girl, and like, you just went and went forward with it? Like, because to buy $37,000 properties, like, you know, when you live pretty far across the country, it can seem intimidating. We teach people how to do the same thing, but I'm curious about your experience with it and how that worked.
Absolutely. So there's two things that come into play. The first thing is a person I trust, right? So obviously that friend that did it, he already provided the blueprint. He already had the boots on the ground team. So I literally just had to copy and paste. But the one thing that I had advantage of that helped me get out of analysis paralysis, which I see a lot of real estate investors have, is I had the safety net of my W-2, right? Because I had the safety net of my W-2, I was able to take bigger risks because the financial risks aren't as big because I knew I had a stable job. And then thirdly, it was a much cheaper market. You know, if I lose $10,000, $20,000, I'm okay. Again, because it's less money and I have a W-2. So it really was that, because I'm in a real estate community with beginning investors, and they're terrified. They are terrified of doing this because they just don't want to lose money. But what I like to tell them is like, what is the worst case scenario if you lost 30K? What's the worst case? They're like, I mean, I would just have to dip into my savings and just start over from scratch, just building it up again. I was like, okay, does that sound that bad? And they're like, no. Right? So it's really helping people understand the mindset that they're actually in a better position than they really think they are.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think when you go layers deep on the worst case scenario, that's where it really starts to like click for people. And I totally agree with you. Like, I've said this on a number of podcasts. Okay, your tenants stop paying. Okay, what are the chances that it goes 44 layers deep and that you're living under a bridge? The world would have to collapse for you to be able to do
Exactly.
Like, you don't have anybody you can call. You don't have a mentor. You don't have someone that you can trust. So like, that's why we emphasize so much, like having a mentor or a coach, like help you along this in this journey. For us, it was a thing that got us, you know, to that next level. So I'm curious about this market that you're investing in. Is this where you buy all your properties now, or have you now shifted to different markets?
So it's currently where I have all 10 doors. And the reason why is because I've developed such a good relationship with my lender that they let me have these subject to appraisal loans. Imagine being able to scale without your own money. How can you leave? It's so hard. Maybe it's not the best, most appreciating market, but it's still pretty decent. I've actually recently, I live in Orange County, and people are like, you're never going to replace your W-2 buying Midwest homes. And they're like, I get it, but you have to start somewhere sometimes. And for me, at my risk tolerance, I needed somewhere a little bit more like lower income so I could feel safe. But what happened now is same lender allowed me to bundle 3 of the properties and refinance them so I could take all my money out. Now I have a larger chunk that I could scale into a larger or different market, like larger property, a different market. So that's what I like. I've actually been under contract since February for a condo in Long Beach. Didn't work out. I was going to make an Airbnb West Virginia, just got out of it. Learning a lot along the ways, you know, trying to get into a different market, even though I've lost money in those situations. Again, I just think of that as my investment in my learning as a real estate investor.
Without a doubt. So talk to us about the market that you're investing in again. What was it?
So it's Evansville, Indiana. So it's about 2.5 hours southwest of Indianapolis.
Awesome. And do you have a property manager that manages everything on the day-to-day for you? Like, is that what I'm trying to get at is the team that you've built with boots on the ground, so people can feel comfortable investing 2,000 miles away. Is that, yeah,
exactly. Absolutely have a full boots on the ground team. I have my lender out there who originally was my realtor and general contractor. I have a property manager out there. So it's absolutely passive for me, except when I get a call like, hey, your roof needs to get replaced, or this tenant's getting evicted. That's the only time I kind of get information, because I needed that to be passive so that I could focus on my active real estate investing.
100%. Cool. Okay. So this is proof right here, people. You're listening to this podcast. You're thinking like, okay, I live in an expensive market. You can go to a place like Evansville, and it's not like you have deep roots in Evansville. It's not, that's not something that we've heard prior to listening to this. Like, you found a market, you dove in, you put your feelers out there, and it's starting to work for you really well. I want to get back into some of the travel hacking, and let's just say we're talking to somebody that's like, getting started. They have the first couple properties. They're trying to scale their rental portfolio. You kind of mentioned a couple cards, but like, take us back and tell us what you think would be the best avenue for some, like, maybe they're not complete rookies, or maybe they have their first, second, third, and they're trying to scale? Like, what's the best avenue for them to go in terms of either business or personal credit cards?
Absolutely. So there's two scenarios. If this new real estate investor already has a relationship with the bank, meaning they have a bank account with Chase or they have a personal credit card, then they could dive deep into the business credit cards, because with real estate investing, you always want to put everything on the business side to keep things separate, and also so that you could leverage those credit lines and the utilization won't affect your credit score. So I could start off with one of the biggest mistakes people make, right? As new real estate investors trying to do this. So they'll get this Chase Freedom card, Freedom Unlimited, which has 0% APR like for 15 months. You're like, oh my God, I could put all my renovation costs on that and just pay it off over 15 months from the rental income from my rental, right? But the thing is, what happens when they get this personal card is maybe they get like a 20K credit limit and they'll max it out because they need 20K in renovations. But what happens is anytime your utilization of your credit limit is over 30%, that will decrease your credit score, and it's over 50%. It's a huge red flag to the banks saying you're a risky borrower. So this has happened to a lot of real estate investors where their credit score plummets and they're like, oh my God, what happened? Well, it's because you maxed out a personal credit card. So you typically don't want to do that, right? So instead, what you want to use is a business credit card. So maybe you have this one, Corey. You said this is a Chase Inc. Unlimited. This is
We
the
used
same
to
scenario.
use it. I'm sorry. No, we do have that one. Yeah, we do have that one.
Yeah,
I do personally. Yeah.
So with the Chase Inc. Unlimited, it has 0% APR for 12 months. But say you get the same scenario, 20K credit limit. Because it's a business credit card, the utilization doesn't report to your credit score. So even if you max this out, the 20K, your credit score won't drop because it's separate from your personal, because it's a business card, right? So people need to keep that in mind. That's like a huge mistake a lot of people do because they just see 0%, like, let me do that. And these business credit cards with 0% aren't as advertised. You know what I mean? People aren't seeing it as often. So that's what I would say for someone to do is go on the business side. And that Chase Inc. Unlimited is a great one. This Amex Blue Business Plus is a great one for 0% for 12 months if they have Amex cards. You always want to start with the bank that you have a relationship with, because at the end of the day, you have to remember, like, these banks, they have to know you in order to lend to you, right? Why would I give you a high credit limit if I don't know you, right? I'll just give you 2K. And at that point, as a real estate investor, you can't do anything with that. But here's the other, scenario, like Corey and Ryan, is what they're saying, like, I don't have any credit cards with Chase. So in that scenario, it's going to take them a little bit more time. They have to build a personal relationship with that bank first. And it's called data mining. So it's either they open up a personal or, business bank account with them, or they get like a personal credit card, like the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Start that relationship first, so then Chase could see, like, oh, I see your spending habits. I understand you a little bit more. Then once you get the personal side established, then you could go into the business to start leveraging it for OPM if that's what you want. But overall, they both still earn points and miles.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to let Rye come in here in a little bit, but I do have one more question. I'll probably have several more, but I've found that the biggest hurdle for us was the bridge between personal and business. And we were able to get like between us, hundreds of thousands of dollars of limits personally, but then getting the limits for our business to be in the beginning to be above $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. It was challenging because we were starting a business and we didn't have that trust, even though we had maybe having all this limit that we weren't using personally actually hurt us on the business side. I'm curious if you have any advice for people who are on the crossover, who are like, okay, I have some personal, but I really want to establish the business, but Chase just gave me $10,000 and that doesn't really help me. Like, is it just, hey, you got to hit all these banks and you got to go to 20 different ones and you got to go to credit unions? Do you have something that's tangible that people can take away that they could implement today?
Absolutely. The first step is, if you're applying for a business credit card online, there's tons of places where people make mistakes, right? The first one is, people don't know this. There are certain risky industries that the banks consider medium to high risk. And if you're in a riskier industry, they'll give you less credit limit. Guess which industry is considered kind of risky?
Yeah, I think we know. Real estate.
Real estate. So what are people putting in their industry? Real estate. Boom, already you messed up. Next thing, when it says, how much revenue have you made? Your business revenue. People are like, I'm just starting out. That's why I need this capital. The thing is, on that particular section is, you need to put projected, revenue in the next 12 months, not within this year, the next 12 months. How much do you think you can possibly make? Because these credit applications are no documentation. They're not going to ask you for bank statements unless, your revenue is maybe over 250, then they will. But if you're under there, especially a beginning investor, remember it's projected. When it comes to personal income, right? You put your whole household income because they want to see that you're making more money and you could sustain this as a borrower. And then also when you started your business, it's not necessarily when you got your LLC, it's when you started conceptualizing about real estate because they want to see that you've been in this business for longer. So that's the first thing. People mess up on the online application for business all the time. So what's the easy fix? If you don't know what you're going to do, go in branch. Right? That's the best thing that you could do if you're doing a business credit card, because what's happening with the online applications is that algorithm is giving you a low limit. It's a computer that's like, nah, I don't really like you. But if you go in branch, you could talk to a banker who worked directly with the underwriters and they could vouch for you. You go, hey, Sally, I'm doing a property management business with Airbnb and, I need this capital so I could scale my business or get ads. That's the dialogue you need to say, FYI. They want to hear that you're using the capital to scale and make more money, not I'm using this capital for payroll. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear you want to make more money because they will make more money. So you go, hey, Sally, and give them an amount higher than you actually need. If you need 50K, say I need like 75K, because what happens is the banker will typically negotiate with you down. But if you're shooting higher, you're kind of coming down to where you want. And they'll tell you and they'll ask you all the questions. That way they can say, hey, my guy, Ryan, he's a business owner. They're talking to the underwriters. They need 75K. How can we make this possible for them? Now you're talking to humans, right? And they're like, okay, great. Let's help you out. That's the best thing that you could do. Here's another hack for you guys. Say in the example, you did get that 10K limit because you didn't watch this podcast and you applied online, right? So what you're going to do is once you get that card in the mail, do not activate it. This is a hack. Also, FYI, I was in business funding for a couple of years. That's why I know this stuff. So what you're going to do, you're going to call the number in the back of the card and you're going to say, hi, how can I speak to someone who can help me increase this credit limit? I have 10K, but the reason why I'm getting this credit card is because I want to move my business to Chase. I have Wells Fargo, but I want to put my business with Chase, but I can't use this credit card unless I have like a 30K credit limit. Always give them a number. Don't just say, I need more. Say a number, or else they'll give you 2,000 more and you're like, oh, I don't like that, right? Chase is like a jealous boyfriend. They don't want you banking with other banks. So if you use that dialogue and you're like, oh, I'm trying to move my business from Amex to Chase, they're like, okay, let's see what we could do. And then if, they're giving you a little bit trouble, you're like, well, I don't see any reason why I'm going to activate this card if it doesn't have the credit limit that I need. Right? If for some reason they don't give you the credit limit, they're like, sorry, we can't do anything. Hang up, call again. That's literally a points and miles term, HUCU. Hang up, call again, because sometimes it just depends on the representative that you have. Call again. I've had clients that I've helped with business funding that called 5 times to go from a 3K Chase Inc. unlimited card to a 25K because they kept calling. Just because they said no to you once doesn't mean it's done. Keep trying. So several things that you could do to increase the limits.
Super insightful stuff overall. So I want to touch on a few different things here. We went into travel hacking a bit. We know that you still have your W-2 in public health. You have I believe you still have the midterm rental co-hosting company, and then you've done some business funding. Can you talk about how you tie all this in and manage your W-2? Because I think there's a lot of people that are listening that want to get involved in certain things, but they feel overwhelmed by the W-2. So how is this possible for you? And maybe take us through some of your scheduling and like how you block off time.
Sure. So at the end of the day, not every W-2 is equal, right? It's very difficult for a nurse, like a trauma nurse, to do real estate, with her W-2, as opposed to me who does a lot of office work. Right. And luckily for me, I've been in my same position for 13 years. So I've created a lot of systems, right? And I'm very good with delegation that now to be able to achieve the same work that I've been doing, it takes incredibly less time than it did in the beginning. So essentially, because I have those systems, it opens up a lot of my time. And I know that's not realistic. So the time blocking really, because this is very unique to my position, is obviously in the morning, meet with my team, make sure everyone knows the agenda for the day. And then it's usually whenever I have meetings, that's really the active time that I have to be dedicated at a certain time. But fortunately, in my position, it's very flexible, actually. It's very flexible to move my projects around.
Love that. Are you in office or you work remote, kind of hybrid?
Yeah, so it's hybrid, but I only go into the office once a week, so it's pretty good. I'm
There you go. That's
flexible.
super helpful just to be able to break
Yeah,
things out. And here's the thing, like
transparency.
going through
Yeah,
this, I think there's a lot of people that'll listen. Like you truly can, depending where you work and like how long you've been there and how many systems you built out, you can get done in a day what a typical person will do in 8 hours, done in 2 or 3,
yeah.
truly. And I'm about
Mhm.
optimization and efficiency. And so I've kind of done something similar to you where I've built out systems and it's been able to allow me to manage mine and balance things out the same way, which it's not possible for everybody. So there's balance there. I want to dive into this too a little bit because there's this mantra of burn the boats and leave the W-2 and just go all in on the other thing, right? And I want to talk to maybe some of the reasons you've decided to keep your W-2, the benefits of having one while
Yeah,
investing into real estate. I
absolutely.
know we talked about it a little bit, but just going into specifically your situation and why you're a believer in keeping the W-2 and how you can use it as a tool to, scale and level up.
Absolutely. I love this question because I feel like there's a lot of W-2 shaming in the real estate, industry, which is warranted, absolutely warranted. But then there are people like me, and I will say I'm a millennial. So I think it's harder for a millennial. This is just my personal opinion to kind of let go of a W-2 versus like Gen X, right? They're like, yeah, whatever the job. But millennial, you've been in your W-2. Your W-2 has helped you through a large portion of your life before you started seeing all this social media talking about like burn the boat, right? So for me, I'm in public health, right? So the biggest advantage to me is I need that health insurance. I absolutely need that health insurance to have that peace of mind. If anything happens, I will be covered because we know in this country it's wild. Secondly, that 401k free money, why not? Absolutely just automate that 401k because as long as you keep your W-2, what's going to happen once you exit that 401, once you exit that W-2, now you can use your 401k into real estate later, right? So you're currently building that capacity with capital that you could use for real estate later once you leave your W-2. And thirdly, I know this is rarely talked about, but I like my W-2. So I get it. A lot of people don't like theirs, but I literally save lives. I help people become a better version of themselves, even though it's very challenging. And for me, waking up every day to be able to do that is rewarding. So why would I leave that when I could do both? I can do both because I figured out how to do both. And
Yeah.
if you could figure it out, do it. If you could figure it out, do it.
I love that. And I really wanted to highlight that because there is some shaming in the industry. And then, there's that battle between what's right and wrong with doing it. But I think to highlight, there's no cookie cutter way to do it. This is very much a gray answer. It just depends on
Yes.
if you can balance it, meaning you can split the time with your brain and actually have the energy to do what you need to do for both, or else it doesn't work. And it
Yes.
takes a specific type of person to do it. And then also a very specific structure in the W-2 to be able to do
Oh
it. Like
yeah.
someone out in
Oh
the
yeah.
field all day, it's impossible. And I get that. And it
Yeah.
seems like unfair having these types of conversations with people that are able to manage it. And they're like, you just don't get it. Well, we do get it. I hear you. And it's trying to kind of use your skill sets to get into a position where you can have a W-2 and kind of work hybrid or even part-time and something like that to have the back end of, think about people that are, I think like the higher level, like CEOs or people that are about to retire, right? And they do retire and they go back and just get a W-2 for that insurance, right? Maybe it's part-time, but they want that flexibility, but like that protection again. So
Mhm.
it's just a very interesting thing. I appreciate you sharing that. I do want to get
Of course.
into, I know you're investing into syndications and other things like that, really on the LP side of things. So talk to us about
Mhm.
how you decide what to invest in. And there's a really cool
Sure.
project that our friend Soli undertook. And I see that you're an investor there. So I want to talk about that and like why you picked that specific project. And then what you look for in deals managing all this together.
Absolutely. So I'm one of the community managers for Hello Rentals, which is the community that Soli leads, right? And obviously we knew about this hotel. And for me, it was literally a dream to be an investor in a hotel because I'm a travel hacker. And I was like, oh my God, I travel hack hotels and then I'm an investor in a hotel. What an amazing situation. And that deal, obviously, they did an amazing job, especially with Deanna and Josh, the way that they were designing everything. For me, I asked Soli, I was like, can I be an investor? Because I wanted experience in a different asset of investing because I have active stuff where I'm doing like my co-hosting, temporary housing, very passive with my LTRs. Now, how do I level up? Because I'm not going to do this hundreds of doors, in Midwest to get like 10K. Right. I need to figure out what's a way for me to make more money from real estate investing. And so being in a syndication with hotels, it was a way to me to figure out how to learn hotels first, because now I'm kind of interested in being the GP side. It was an introduction because at the end of the day, you are collecting checks as a limited partner and it's nice, but it's like your foot in the door and you're figuring out like, oh, this is interesting. It's because I have the opportunity, because I do work with Soli, to be able to see a little bit behind the curtain, even though I'm an LP, because I do see myself getting into hotel investing. So that's just like my beginning to my next, category of real estate investing I want to get into.
It would make a lot of sense, Jaina, that you were investing in hotels while you're travel hacking. Like it kind of can be part of your brain. I can see that coming together for you. So that makes complete sense. I want to just give some more free game for on the travel hacking side. Is like, let's say I wanted to get a vacation for free in the next year. Is it really? Let's move it to the next level, because we asked about people that are like are just starting out. But maybe for Ryan and I, let's say our business is growing. We have our real estate investing business, but we also have our coaching community business. It's kind of separate. We're trying to expand that significantly in the next year. Is there a next level card that could help us get some vacations for free, or a next level strategy that we could use that would help? Let's say I'm looking on your Instagram here, you went to Secrets in Tulum or whatever. Let's say I wanted to take my now fiance there. Like, what's the best next level strategy that maybe we haven't touched on?
Excellent. So the first thing I want to talk about is using the right card for your spend, right? So what do you guys typically spend money on?
It's a good question. So our biggest spend right now is advertising. So we spend money on advertising dollars.
How much per month?
I would say anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month on advertising spend. So that's cool. Probably the largest expense that we have, I would say, per month.
All right. So for you specifically, Corey, this is your card, the Amex Business Gold, not the personal, the business, because this gets 4x per dollar, right? On advertising, online advertising up to 150K per year. And if you're spending, just say, for example, our easy numbers, 10K per month, 120,000 dollars times 4, that's how many points you could get. That could easily get you 2 to 4 business class flights, depending on where you want to go. So when you're talking about the next level, it's really about getting the credit cards that, one, are giving you the most points for your particular category of spend, and 2, have good sign up bonuses that you could leverage to take those vacations. Because if you're saying, for example, you're using the platinum card for your business spend, right? You're only getting 1 point per dollar. Right. So you're getting such less value by using the wrong card. And a lot of people do that. When a person puts down a platinum card at a restaurant, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed because they only are getting 1 point per dollar on that whole dining experience. If you use the business gold, that gets 4x on dining. Right. When I see someone put a gold card, I'm like, they know what's up. They're using the right card. So that's the first step. But let's just say Secrets Tulum. Oh my God, an amazing place for fiance. So I'm going to talk about this concept. Here's next level called Player 2. Right. So Player 2 is someone that helps you get more points. It could be your spouse, your girlfriend, fiance. It could be even just a travel buddy. And you guys work together to essentially pool your points so you could get more extravagant or just more vacations. So say, for example, here's one of the biggest mistakes people do when they have a Player 2. They put their spouse as an authorized user on a credit card. Do either of you do that?
Yes.
Okay. For points and miles, that's not the situation, right? I get it. If you guys are like pooling, you're using that card, but if you actually want to maximize the points that you could get, instead, we're going to do this. So you said you have the Sapphire Preferred, right, Corey?
I do.
Okay, so what you're going to do, so this typically earns 60,000 sign-up bonus when you open this card. So instead of having like your partner as an authorized user, take them off. Then what you're going to do is you're going to give your referral link to your partner, right? Then they get the sign up bonus. They get 60K because you referred them. You get 10K. So now you got 70K together, and then plus however much you already had on this. Now you could combine your points. Say, for example, as on a Hyatt hotel. So that Secrets Impressions Moshe, I believe is about 45,000 points per night. You could get 2 to 4 nights just by doing this player 2 strategy. All you did was like take them off as an authorized user, have them meet the sign up bonus, and you guys consolidate your points on Hyatt, right? So anytime that people have an authorized user on their points credit card, I'm like, get them out. And you give your referral link and let them get the bonus themselves. So that's one of the ways that you could like double your points.
I got one here. So, and I think you may have touched on this a little bit earlier in the episode, but if you could drill down here. So I think for people, when you're getting started in business, it's easy to get that intro level card, but to establish business credit, it's hard to get larger amounts unless you can prove like you're going to bring in X amount of dollars, right? And then there's their more risky industries and all these things. Sure. Can you maybe touch back on I forget like how in depth we went on this, but like for an example, starting real estate investor, you get in and you get the card that gives you maybe like 5 or 10,000 as a limit to scale up to the next level to maybe the 100 grand or something like that. What are the steps instead of going and taking out a line of credit or trying to get approved for that too? I'm sure there's nuances that you have for these types of situations.
Yes. So the first thing is if you can apply through a business relationship manager, because when you have a business relationship manager, they know you as a customer and they could vouch for higher limits for you. If you can truly prove that you need that, that amount of money, and it also depends, like, are you asking that it has to be 0% for 100 for like 100K? Is that what you're asking as well?
It doesn't have to be 0%. I actually just think we've had some experience in just speaking directly on us, like in the beginning, going from one institution to another, trying to get approved. And there's obviously documentation that needed to be had, but it was more difficult for us to get a spending limit or a credit limit based on if the income wasn't coming in through that specific business. And we have a few different businesses, so it was kind of harder for us to pick like which lane we wanted to go through. So just throwing it out there.
Sure. Yeah. So there's two ways. So when we talked about Chase, we mentioned going through a banker and applying in branch. That's how you get a higher limit, because remember, you have to tell them all the specifics so that they could vouch for you to get a higher limit. The second part of that is, say you don't get a credit limit you call the reconsideration line on the back of the card and be like, hey, I need this credit limit because I want to move my business to Chase, wherever it is that you're going. So that's the second way. The third way is going to Amex. Okay. So American Express Gold and Platinum cards, they're not credit cards. They're charge cards. Credit cards like the Amex Blue Business Plus have a credit limit, right? Say this one only have 50K credit limit. But charge cards have spending power. That's why utilization doesn't report on charge cards, because your spending power can change. With these charge cards, that's why like bigger real estate investors love the Platinum, because they could charge $500, $600, $800,000 on this charge card because it has higher credit limits. So if you're really trying to get that much and you don't care about 0%, get an Amex charge card, the Business Gold or the Business Platinum. I would personally start with the Business Gold first because y'all do a lot of ads. And then on your Amex app, it will say like, check my spending power. So this is just me personally, right? For this Business Gold, I don't have like huge spend, but my spending power for this Business Gold is 200K. I checked it last month, right? Wow. And if you spend more, it could be more. And that's why those big real estate investors are like, I love the Platinum no matter what, because they could probably put $1 million on here. You know what I mean? Because their spending power is so high, because Amex sees all their transactions like, oh, this person pays it off and they have a lot, so we're going to give them more spending power. So if you need that higher credit limit and you don't care about the 0%, the Amex Business Gold or Amex Business Platinum, and sometimes like I believe this Business Gold actually has 0% for 6 months right now. I checked it a few months ago, but this one can have 0% still, and then you're like, wow, bonus. That's amazing, right?
So one more piggyback off this. This is what I remember why I brought it back up. So Capital One, right? I'm thinking virtual online business. That's kind of how they conduct everything. For someone that, for me personally, I've been with them for a long time, and transitioning into the business side of things, there's not branches really anywhere. Like they have those little cafes. How do you guide someone on this type of thing? Is it just establishing a new relationship, saying, hey, like, dude, go straight to Amex at this point? Or is there a way to kind of work with an online bank?
Well, it's like, what do you want? Like, if you do want a brick and mortar bank, then don't go with Capital One, right? Because that doesn't fulfill your needs. Whatever it is that you need to do with transactions or banking on the real estate side, whatever you need functionally as a real estate investor, go to the bank that can fulfill those needs. Capital One is great. They're great too, but like you said, there's limitations with that. What if I just need to pull out cash for whatever reason? Sometimes that happens. What if I need to wire an earnest money deposit? I can't really do that in branch sometimes. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
think about how your business operates and go to the bank that actually fulfills those needs, I would say, versus just going to different banks for, I don't know, that don't fulfill your need.
I think it's just important to highlight this because when you're getting into the game, you go with familiarity. And I think whoever you've banked with forever, Wells Fargo, Capital One, whatever, you're like, oh, okay, I'll just go to this bank, open up a business line and just start that way. There's ways to optimize and become more efficient. And doing this, that's why we kind of highlighted on this episode. That's the reason for being more optimistic. You can start from scratch at new places. You know, for us, we just, one example is Wells Fargo, because they were so super streamlined and we could see all of our different accounts and credit lines and things in one place. And like, this feels good. This feels easy, but it wasn't optimized. So we spoke with a funding specialist similar to you and just actually got optimized, and it's taken our business to a different level. And then moving further along, it's like, then when you get into business lines of credit and establishing relationships with people in person, that's really what took us to the next level. And I just wanted to highlight that. Like, I'm basically talking to myself when I started in the game, because I love Capital One and that's what I use for some of my personal stuff. But realizing maybe a lesser known bank, but it's in person, I have a relationship. I know the person and the person that's going to be speaking with the underwriter. It's helped us get way higher limits. And then if we have any questions, we can actually give the nuanced scenario of what's going on and why we need more. And you're more likely to get approved. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Just as for newbies, it's important to get it out of your head. You don't have to go with someone that you've used forever.
Exactly. That's a great point.
And I can give some nuance here, Jaina, too, because like Ryan and I are probably going to do a full episode of the bank that we ended up going with. It's just not inked yet, and I don't want to like put it out there because I think other people will be able to benefit from it too. But to maybe further Ryan's point, like, so Wells Fargo, we had all of our business, all of my personal, I've been with them for 20 plus years, but they were giving us 1/10 the amount this local bank was giving us. And I realized very quickly that even though that there are underwriters and there's algorithms and there's AI software that's like approving and denying you, the more you can make this a relationship game and have somebody buy into the business that you're building and really trust you, the person. We were able to get 10x, and not just a credit card, but a business line of credit, which instead of when the period is over of the introductory rate, it goes, credit card goes to 25%, where we're going to get 8 or 9% on the business line of credit. And this just happened. So again, we'll do a full podcast episode, I think, on it, because I want to introduce other people to this bank. But I'm saying this to say that it is a relationship game, even though you think. So don't just talk to one bank, and that's kind of what you're saying, is like, what's the best one for your needs? Not just only not talking to one bank, but don't talk to just one person at that bank. Maybe you can create a relationship with someone else there. And that for us was a game changer. So as we wind down here, I want to ask about your future goals. Like, what are you looking to do in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? You tell us the time frame, but you have a lot going on. You're working your W-2 job, you're investing in hotels, you're doing single family homes across the country, you have you're teaching people how to travel hack. So what's the number one thing that you're focused on, and what are you trying to accomplish in the next year to 3 years?
I think the first thing for me, real estate wise, with these two, failed deals that I had recently, for me now, I'm taking it as a sign to get my primary. I don't have a primary residence yet, so I'm hoping to get that as, a condo in Orange County. It's going to be crazy, but eventually I need that home, and I'll eventually make it into, a rental or whatever I decide, maybe a midterm rental. So that's the first thing. It's going to take a lot of effort because I have to save so much. And in order to save a lot, I want to be able to scale the temporary housing businesses that I have. So I help with insurance claims and corporate housing for 2 different companies. And essentially I do the operations because I come from co-hosting. It's all operations. So when you come with that kind of skill set, that's what enables them to scale. I brought on VAs from the Philippines. I trained them. I was able to get them for like $3 an hour. You know what I mean? Figuring out how to do that. So that way I can increase my income and just set it aside, because I've always been someone to live below my means. Right. I rent a room from a family that house hacks. I've been driving like a paid off Civic for a long time. So it allows me to make a lot of monetary mistakes. right? Because I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have a high car payment. Yes, I will throw a couple thousand maybe into a crypto project or something because I have the luxury of taking that risk because of the way that I live, right? So it's going to be that. And then I also hope, I don't know if you guys know Gideon Spencer.
Very well.
We know
But
Gideon very well. Yeah.
nice. Well, I'm hoping to be in his hotel community eventually when I'm ready because I want to get a hotel. That
Okay,
is
well, let me just tell you something. If you want to learn, there's a couple people you can learn hotels from. Rich Summers and Gideon
Of course.
Spencer are two of the names that I would highly recommend. Gideon is awesome. I probably have a call with him once a week. So there's your testimonial. Go join his community. He's great. Yeah.
I know, like I met him at a mastermind, Jesse's mastermind at the Growth House Mastermind. And I met him there and he seems so cool. And once I'm ready, I'm just trying to get things established right now. But I would say like, I want to keep it simple and focused is just get my primary and then learn how to start being a GP for a hotel, boutique hotel.
Awesome. Great goals. And I feel like a theme here is that you're not, because you've removed the desperation from your life, and the desperation is like, hey, I need to make this next paycheck to afford this lavish lifestyle. Once you remove that, you're able to play in an arena where I can put some dollars here, I can put some dollars here. I don't have to be fearful because I know I have stability. And I think that is the foundation of building wealth, the foundation of the reason why we have this show, and the number one thing that people need to do prior to saying I want to go buy real estate is like, can you afford your lifestyle? And are you allowing yourself the ability to take risks? And if you just are living paycheck to paycheck, it's really hard. Now, then there comes the level 2. Okay. I need to take the risk that doesn't feel comfortable in order to level up to the next game. And that's a whole nother conversation. We could do an entire 3-hour podcast episode on that. But the foundation starts with living below your means, and you've already done that. And then allowing yourself to say, I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I'm going to push through the fear. I can lose a couple thousand here. I can lose a couple thousand there, because if you run from that, you'll be running forever and never doing anything, because you're going to lose money in this game in just wealth building. And it's all about the zooming out and looking at the chart and watching your net worth grow over time. So I think it's great, Jaina. I think, you really have something here. You taught us a lot on this episode. I'm very intrigued by Ryan. And I don't do enough traveling, and I've said this to him. So we've connected with some people recently where it's like, nice. Hey, we're going to New York or Dallas or San Diego. Like we're making that an effort in our business and making our business surrounding our life in a way. And I think that's so anyway, if we're able to do that for free through travel hacking, I think it's pretty sweet. Last question that we ask a lot of people, just to get a little bit deeper into your story. The last one for me is, what gets you out of bed every morning? Like, what's your why? You're filling your days with work, and it seems like work that you love, which is awesome. Like, you seems like you have a passion around this, but like, what's it all for? Like, what's the purpose of building this wealth? What's the purpose of buying the rentals? What's the purpose of helping people travel hack? Like, what's the why behind it all?
That's a very loaded question. Thank you for asking. If I'm just going to make it simple, I feel like everyone has different upbringings, right? Whatever experience you have molds your perception and what you want to be in the future. I feel like what wakes me up every morning is growing into the woman that my younger self needed, whatever that entails. If I could make my younger self proud, then I think I'm doing a good job.
I love that.
Awesome.
I have a quick one, and kind of on that, but do you have siblings by any chance?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Are you the oldest?
I am.
Nailed it.
So I have like a younger sister and a younger brother. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I asked this, and that was out of the blue, we did not script that. And it's just so interesting to me. And Corey and I have kind of stumbled upon this after interviewing very successful people and driven people. It's typically the oldest or the firstborn in the family that is doing the entrepreneurial game. It's very interesting. It's been like clockwork. And I'm not saying, hey, if you are a second or third born, this is not for you, but It's super interesting. You have this chip, you have this drive. It's hard to put into words exactly what it is, but you became a protector, a leader, someone that had to do things earlier because there were other people looking up to you and that may have been impacted from any of your decisions, right? We are both firstborn, which is super interesting too. And we found that it's just I wanted to bring it up for listeners because I think if you are firstborn and like you've been weathered and put through certain scenarios where you are equipped for this game in more ways than you think. So that was cool. I appreciate it. I want to end on that note. I think you're doing great things. Just echoing Corey's point. super intriguing to learn about all the things you're doing, what you're able to balance, still attacking the future full force, even though you have a full plate. So if people enjoy the show, they want to network with you, get to know you a little bit better, how can they find you and, maybe have a conversation?
Yeah, the best place would be Instagram. So my handle is Jaina_Ann, Jaina_ANNE. And just hit me up there in the DMs. I'm happy to respond.
Perfect. Jaina, it was a pleasure. Really looking forward to staying in touch. And thank you again.
Thank you so much.